Hey, welcome to the Latoya Carr Show. Where is my handbook? The name was inspired because life comes at such a fast pace and it does not come with a handbook. Therefore, this podcast will talk about the many different facets of everyday living, and that can include parenting, business, family, friendships, relationships, basically everything that you will sit at your kitchen table and talk about. I started the podcast on anchor.fm. For those of you that are listening who may be wanting to start your own podcast, go to anchor.fm to start your own podcast. It is free and very easy to navigate. Again, welcome to the Latoya Carr Show. Where is my handbook? So, welcome to the Latoya Carr Show. Today's guest, I have Miss Kindra Nichols, who is the auntie of Mr. Elijah Nichols. I'm going to let Kindra tell you guys her story, but I do want to do a brief introduction of her. So Kindra is the auntie of Elijah Nichols. Kindra and Elijah's mom are sisters, and she played a big part in raising him. And so although his mom was there and he lived with his mom and all of that, his mom had a hard time in Elijah's case. So Kendra stepped up as auntie and decided to be an advocate. So Elijah is now in prison, was sentenced to 45 years, 10 of those in prison, 20 on probation, and then the rest of the time suspended. So what I'll do is, Kindra, if you can go ahead and let the people know what happened with your nephew Elijah, and why he's there, and then we can just go from there, just to let them know what's going on.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Elijah, he's never been in trouble before. This is his first time ever been in trouble, not even as a juvenile or anything. Elijah, the way that he was raised is that, you don't stop at high school. You continue on to make something of yourself. And especially by him being a black male. Well, not only by him being a black male, he's a teen father as well.
Mm-hmm.
He became a father during his senior year in high school. So Elijah, he was an honor student. He was the captain of his basketball team and everything. So Elijah, he had different opportunities to go to other colleges, but Elijah wanted to continue to see his son every weekend and remain active in his life. And if he would have went to another college, he could have been 4 or 5 hours away, which would have made it harder for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he chose in Radford University so he could come home every weekend. Elijah, he decided to, after studying, he decided to go out for a little bit with some friends, and they went to a frat party, which it was open to anyone to come to, as long as it was, for every guy, you had to bring 3 girls with you. So Elijah met the requirements, brought the girls with him, his friends went with him and everything. So when they entered the fraternity, they seen 2 desks, and it was the frat brothers that were behind the desks. They were serving alcohol and everything there, seeing other people indulging in different drugs like weed and all types of other stuff. So Elijah asked if it was okay if he was to roll a joint. Most people, they do smoke marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy, he told him, he was like, yeah, it's fine. He said, just go to another room. So Elijah, as he went to another room, he went to the wrong room. When he went to a room, he seen 2 white guys and a white girl. And they were in the room. It was a bathroom. And it was a white powder substance on the counter. And so Elijah realized he was in the wrong room. So as he proceeded to leave out of that room, here comes one of the guys that came out of the bathroom, and he was telling Elijah to leave. So Elijah, he was trying to leave, and as he's trying to leave, he was grabbed up from behind and placed in a choke position. So Elijah, He's trying to break loose. Of course, he can't get loose because he's being held up and he's off of his feet. At this time this happening, another white fraternity brother came and started punching Elijah in his stomach. So Elijah said that he couldn't breathe, he couldn't scream, he couldn't do anything. So Elijah, he defended himself. He had a pocket knife clipped onto his pants, which is considered legal in the state of Virginia and everything. The way that we look at pocket knives, we use them as tools to cut fruit, to clean nails, do all types of stuff. And it's also considered legal on the campus.
Okay.
So Elijah, to try to get the guys off of him, he had stabbed the guy in the side. The guy still didn't release his hold. So he stabbed him again. The guy still didn't release his hold. He stabbed him again. The guy still did not release his hold until someone told him he was bleeding. And then that's when the guy released his hold on Elijah. Then the one that was punching him, he tried to jump on Elijah. So Elijah, and he stabbed him. But his injuries wasn't severe or anything like that neither. So as Elijah, he's trying to run outside to get out the fraternity house. So Elijah, as he's running, another guy, he tripped him and called him a nigger. So Elijah, as the guy's like on top of him, he's like swinging the pocket knife like to get away from me. So the guy just had like they said it was like paper cut type cuts on him. It was like just a couple of slashes on him or whatever. And so then Elijah, he left. So the thing is that we don't understand is when Elijah said that he couldn't breathe and him defending himself against not one but three people that came after him, why was he given a 45-year sentence? So we can't defend ourselves. And it could have been a fatality. He could have died.
Right.
And they would have got off on it, of course, because the way they would have looked at it, oh, he was at that party. It doesn't matter if he was at that party. He was invited. He went. It was an open party. It's not like he was trespassing or anything. And that's the same way here in here. If someone broke into my house, I couldn't just attack them for breaking in. I have to warn them and then call the police. And then while the police is here, and if I still feel threatened, then that's when I can defend myself. But I can't just defend myself.
So, okay, while all of this is going on, the people that he was invited by or his friends that he went with, where were they?
People were just scattered around.
Okay.
And Elijah, he had a reliable witness. And his witness spoke to the detectives. His witness spoke to his attorney and everything. However, the detectives, they took his witness's photo and walked around that campus and was asking people if they knew who the witness was, which they were not supposed to do. So the witness was in fear of their safety to the point where they backed out of the case and left Radford University. Dropped out of that school and went to another one because of that.
Wow. So,
and then I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then even during the court case, because Elijah, he did not have a trial. If he would have went to trial, like Elijah did not have a plea agreement. Some think that he did, but we were told in Radford that they do not offer plea agreements. So he never took one. What he did was he pleaded guilty to the lesser charge because the charges were 3 aggravated malicious woundings. And being that Radford, at the time, if we would have known that Radford was the way that it was, Elijah would not have never went there. Yeah. It's like a lot of things started coming out after the fact. And then when I started doing research, I started seeing things about Radford. Right. And I'm like, so the charges carried a minimum of 20 years per charge if he was found guilty. So the jury, they could have dismissed 2 of the charges, but could have found him guilty on one, and they could have gave him 80 years off of that one charge that he was found guilty on, because the minimum time would have started at 20 years, and he could not have gotten any less than that. So that's the reason why he pleaded to the lesser charge of malicious wounding versus aggravated malicious wounding. And So the way his time is broken down is 45 years. The time is not dismissed, it's only suspended. So Elijah has to do 10 years in prison, and he has 20 years of probation. So anytime that Elijah is, by him being on that probation, if he were to get in any type of trouble, whether it's a speeding ticket, and they just say, "Oh, well, we're gonna go on and take you to jail for a speeding ticket," Elijah, that 45 years, the remaining of that 45 years can still be, he still can have to serve that. So it's not like it's going to go anywhere. It's still there until he completes his probation.
Wow. So this happened, was this 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
2017. So, man, so he's like, what, you said an hour from you guys?
Well, Elijah now, since he's in prison, Elijah's like an hour and a half away from us.
Okay. So do you feel like you've gotten any leeway in terms of speaking up and being his advocate since this has happened?
Well, as far as I feel that Elijah is being heard, I've been able to speak with a lot of people, marvelous people, and each and every person that have spoken to me or reached out to me, whether, all social platforms, and sharing Elijah's story or just saying, we're sorry, or comments and everything, this is very hard for us,
Right.
And for Elijah, at the time, Elijah just turned 18. He just turned 18, and there's a lot of things that we did not know until after the fact. Like, even with this attorney, some things that she did not go over with us. We don't know anything really about the criminal system, so it's like that we didn't know to ask certain things or that certain things could be offered. Like Elijah, being that he just turned 18, they could have carried his case to juvenile domestic courts. We didn't know that. Just like how the judge, he kept denying to send Elijah to a youth offenders program. The judge sat on that paperwork until it was almost the end that he had to be able to submit an appeal. So the judge would just hold on to the paperwork, wait to the last minute, and then just write denied. And then instead of his lawyer being able to pick the paperwork up or for them to fax it to him, they had to go all the way to Radford to go pick it up. I mean, they had to wait for it to be mailed.
What?
So it's like the judge was just doing, being ornery, the way that I was looking at it. Like, even when Elijah had the sentencing hearing, when he was in there and Elijah's character witnesses spoke, my dad spoke, his mom who spoke, a doctor of theology spoke, a former Carolina Panther, which was also Elijah's coach, and he's also a police officer. While each one of them spoke, the judge had his eyes closed and was nodding on and off as if he was uninterested in anything that anyone said.
Wow.
So it's like he was asleep. Because eyes closed and you're nodding. And so then when Elijah, the judge asked him, he was like, okay, well, when this is all over, what do you see yourself doing? Elijah told him, he said, well, I want to continue to be here for my son. He said, I want to get my sports management degree, and I want to open up like a Dick's, but for athletes. So the judge heard all of that, and then once Elijah finished speaking, the judge said, I want to thank William Fleming High School, which Elijah went to, because my wife used to be a teacher there. And then he said, I'm going to make an example out of you. The sentencing guidelines for a first-time offender was 3.5 to 5 years. The judge, he did not honor that. He said, I'm going to give you 45 years. And then he broken it down. So, he made it seem like Elijah had, a second chance when you ask him what he wanted to do. And then as soon as he tell you, that's when you go ahead and oppose the sentence on him. He even allowed my dad to give him a kiss. Normally you can't touch inmates or anything like that. My dad asked him if he can give Elijah a kiss, and when he gave him a kiss, we felt a certain type of way. We was like, "Nah, something ain't right. Something isn't right," And the judge, he already knew what he was doing. He knew at the time that he woke up that morning what sentence he was going to oppose. We didn't take no recesses, no breaks, no nothing. The judge just said, "Well, give me 15 minutes. Let me go in here and see what kind. Let me think on it and see what kind of sentence I'm going to oppose." No, he didn't do that. Everything ran together to the point we were there for hours. The next thing you know, you throw out that sentence and didn't even take a breath.
Wow. So how does that work in terms of, so you're fighting for him, but how does it work in terms of the criminal system, like going to appeal it, or like, do you have to wait a certain time? I know petitions and things like that can be signed, but is there a certain amount of years he has to wait before you guys go back, or how does that work?
Well, right now we're still working on appeals. Elijah, he just submitted one.
Okay.
The first appeal that he submitted, the judge had assigned him, the same judge that sentenced him, assigned him with a court-appointed attorney to go ahead and work on his appeal. I told Elijah's mother, I said, "Well, I don't feel right about that attorney." I said, because that same judge, it wasn't a different one, it was that same judge who assigned him that attorney.
Right.
So that attorney, he told Elijah, he said, if this appeal goes through, he said, "I'm removing myself from your case." Told him that he didn't want to work on his case. So when he submitted the paperwork to the Supreme Court, he also submitted his resignation to be removed off of Elijah's case. So he was granted to be removed off Elijah's case, and that first appeal was denied, and no other attorney has been assigned to him. And normally, if a lawyer quits, the courts normally will give you another lawyer, but another one was not assigned to him. So now we're working on, and that's why, we're so thankful for the contributions to the GoFundMe, because we're trying to find him another one ourselves, because we spent out so much money. He had 2 other ones that we had paid for. And so with this, we're trying to get him another one that is familiar with injustice, that's for the best interest of Elijah, someone who's familiar with, things that are going on, and they can actually look at it as Elijah being their son. How would they want someone to handle it if Elijah was their son, and not just looking at him as, well, he's a criminal, or, looking at him as being, well, he's just another client. We want someone that's going to care for Elijah as if it was their child.
So with the other 2, the first one, I kind of understand why you guys wouldn't have her anymore. What happened with the second one?
Well, the second one, once Elijah got sentenced, and we were going to her to see what we can do. Can she submit the appeal? And ask her questions, to the point where she sent us a letter and said that she's no longer representing Elijah.
Wow. So was she was she where Elijah was, or was she where you guys were?
She's where we are.
I wonder what will make her not want to represent him. And then also with the lawyer that the judge appointed, it almost sounds as if it was he didn't want to get mixed up in it because he knew that it was wrong almost.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we're kind of running into with some attorneys. They kind of don't want to clean up his old lawyer's mess, because a lot of them feel that, Elijah may not have been represented the proper way. This should not have happened, all types of things. So, I mean, we get it, but dang, can we get some help?
Right.
Some guidance, direction, or something,
Yeah, but it's because it would seem like I said, the lawyer that the judge appointed, I could see him removing himself from the case if it's like a small town and he's known as well as the judge being known, so he don't want to step on any toes. But as far as people that, you know, the lawyers that are from where you guys are from, unless, you know, they still have ties with the judge, I wouldn't see. Yeah, maybe I think you guys need to get a good black lawyer, because at this point, yeah, it's definitely about injustice. And so with everything that's going on, you definitely will want someone, like you said, that can look at him as their own. And because he's still so young, and for, you know, his youth and, you know, his freedom to be taken away from him like that is just not right. Everything that's going on with injustice, it definitely would be a great thing to get someone who can see themselves in Elijah, which would probably mean getting somebody that looks like him.
Yes, ma'am. Because we feel that the attorney that the judge assigned was just a rinky-dink attorney anyway, you know? So we didn't feel that the judge would have put any type of effort, anything to get him a good attorney. So that's how we looked at it. And then, you know, as far as with this judge, the different types of cases for people who are not of color, how he has sentenced them for harsher crimes that were not of self-defense. Like and a lot of these cases happen at the same University of Radford, where Elijah was a student at, before and after. It was a guy who killed another student during a hazing, and he only had to serve 2 months. There was a rape. It was a 16-year-old that was raped by a 21-year-old. The judge gave him 24 months, and it was at one of the fraternities at Radford University. And then it's this girl, her name is Louisa Cuddy.
Yes.
After Elijah, she killed her roommate. Of course, she pleaded insanity. Her sentence is less than Elijah's. She was given 20 years. She served some of it in prison. The rest is on probation, you know? And then there was this other guy. For January of this year, he actually, he has a malicious wounding charge. He also had child neglect charges. He broke a 12-year-old's pelvis, and he only has to serve 4 years of a 20-year sentence.
Yeah. I read the story about the one with the child abuse in the 4 years, which is so crazy to me. And definitely the story about Louisa, I'm like, she stabbed the girl 30 to 40 times.
And yes.
30 to 40 times you stab somebody. And I guess I'm like, so are they saying because she claimed to be on drugs and all this other stuff, that makes it better? It still happened, you know?
It still happened.
And so that's the part that, you know, they wonder why people don't trust the system, or, you know, don't want to rely on the people that are put in these positions, is because of this. And especially when, you know, people are saying like, well, color definitely does play a factor, because there's no way you stab somebody 30 to 40 times and you only get, what did she get? 20 years? Oh, yes. Well, 40 years, but serving 20. After serving 20, then, you know, it'll be suspended. I'm like, seriously?
And then only 10 years of probation.
Right. But none of the people that Elijah stabbed were wounded severely, correct?
No, absolutely. The third victim, he didn't even come to court at all. He didn't come to court. He didn't seek medical attention. They treated him right there on the scene. His was like, you know, I'm not disregarding anyone being hurt, but as far as his was like Band-Aid wounds. to where, and then the second one, he was in the hospital for like a day, and then he left. And then the first one, he had like his lungs collapsed and stuff. But the thing is, like they brought up in court, but the judge and them, they would not allow his lawyer to say but so much because it wasn't a trial, since it was just a sentence, so she was limited to what she was able to say. So that's why even in the article, it's choppy. Elijah couldn't say his side of the story because it wasn't a trial. But him, like it was brought up, he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So if you're being stabbed, you didn't feel it the first time. It took for someone to let him know, like he didn't even release his grip. Someone had to let him know that he was even bleeding. So, of course, if you're under the influence, you're not going to feel all of this stuff. They didn't pull out as far as like his records to see what his blood alcohol content was or the results of his drug test or anything. Like, we didn't see none of that.
So you mentioned briefly earlier about it not being a trial. So why wasn't there able to be a trial?
That's because Elijah, he pleaded to the lesser charge. Because if he would have went to trial before, and more than likely, it would have been a jury of predominantly elderly white people. Mm-hmm. And he would have been found guilty on at least one of those charges. And his time would have been set at a minimum of 20 years. And it could have went up to 1,000 if they wanted to give it to him.
Okay.
So we didn't want to jeopardize Elijah's we didn't want to jeopardize his freedom like that and feel like, it's best if he do it this way because at least it's a chance that he'll still be young when he come home versus him come home, he's 70.
Right. So what made you, so this happened in 2017, what made you step in, besides the fact that I know you said your sister can't really handle what's going on with the case, but what was your first thought to step in and be his advocate, and how long did it take you to start like really speaking out to the public about it?
We've been wanting to speak out. We have.
Mm-hmm.
But we was like, the way this judge is, let's not do anything to make him mad.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to wait till the sentencing was done before we spoke out on it. So I prayed about it. Like, I couldn't even look at pictures of Elijah or anything like that. I hated visiting him. I used to kind of make excuses for going to go see him, and it was behind like it was on the TV screen, so it wasn't like that we were behind glass or anything, but it was hard for me to see him. And then going to visit him and seeing him, upset or, trying not to cry and things like that. But I was like, no, it's not right. We can't sit on this. We can't just let it ride. And I was like, we have to do something. So I told my sister, I was like, well, let's do a petition and see how that works. I said, let's go from there. And I said, I'm going to just start posting on social media because I had no idea of where to go, who to turn to, or what to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that I did reach out to social media and make that petition because, the overwhelming support that we're receiving, and because of all of y'all don't realize that y'all is what's keeping us going.
Right.
And Elijah, he feeds off of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're just very grateful and very thankful. And so, like his petition is like almost at 500,000. A lot of people there writing Governor Northam and everything because he's doing so many things for us of color right now. So we're trying to get his attention and everything. So, and everyone is writing him and calling him to, ask him to pardon Elijah.
And what's the governor's name?
His name is Ralph Northam. A lot of people call him the blackface governor because a picture surfaced of him when he was at a party when he painted his face black.
Okay. So when did you start, what year was it like? So was it like right after the sentencing that you was just like, look, I'm gonna reach out to social media, or did you wait some time and just be like, hey, now was the time?
Yes, I waited some time. I waited some time before I done it. I didn't do it right away. I definitely had to pray on it before I decided to do anything when it came to his petition, and then also for me too. So when I started, I done it in February of last year.
Okay.
So I was like going from 2017 all the way to this, so just kind of just sitting on, my hands, and like I don't want to do anything to make this judge upset, because I'm sure now he's, if he hasn't seen it, I'm sure he's heard about the things that we've posted. But even, with those, Elijah, right afterwards, they were going back to having fraternity parties. Like, I looked at their cases, and some things, I look up stuff anyway because I like to read. And some things I wish that Elijah's attorney would have done the same. Like, before Elijah's trial, like right after this happened in September, in November of the first guy that Elijah defended himself against, he had a noise ordinance charge at that same frat house.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in court saying that you can't be in large crowds, and you're looking over your shoulder because you don't know if someone's going to attack you. Well, how did you have, another party at the frat house to the point where you were charged because of the noise? Y'all went back to playing your sports and everything as if nothing happened. They didn't have to drop out of, they didn't have to drop any semesters, didn't have to drop out of school, continued on.
Wow. And so even though the third guy didn't show up to court, they still charged him for that count.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he probably was like, it's not that serious. And, probably, some people actually do have a heart.
If you would have been in that courtroom, the emotions were on an all-time high. Everyone was crying. Even the court clerk, the ones that sit beside the judge, she was crying. They had removed her out and replaced her with another court clerk.
Mm. Wow. So after, having gone through this, you guys have been going through this for about 3 years. What would you want the people to know? And then, is there anyone out there who has helped you tremendously as far as this case? Because I know you said you started out not knowing exactly where to turn.
Well, it's, I can't give more credit to one person than the other,
mm-hmm.
because there's been so many people. Once I started posting, I even went under people's posts on Instagram and was commenting Elijah's story, like back to back, to the point where Instagram blocked me and I couldn't comment for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going under there, and then to the point where people started responding, or then come to my DM and ask me, why do you keep posting this on my page? And they said, you're persistent. I was hitting up everyone's DMs. I was doing all of that. So for them to even look into what I was saying, or even acknowledging me,
right?
And then going ahead and posting this story, like I can type in Elijah's name and I see so many stories, like stories that I didn't even know that anyone posted because I wasn't tagged in it.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing it, it's like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely, and like I said earlier, we're in a time where injustice is, people are tired and is at an all-time high, and people are speaking out, people who probably even, never even thought that they would, because it's so tiring and exhausting. Because injustice is injustice. We could say, luckily, he's alive, but at the same time, his freedom is still taken away from him. And,
Yeah.
you know, the sentence is definitely harsh. So, is there anything like you would want to say to people that are in a similar situation to you, and or you know, people that probably what's something that you would want to leave this show with today to let the people know?
You know, definitely if you're in a situation like this, you know, pray on it, ask God to lead you in the right direction and give you the words to say. And if it's meant for you to go out here on social media, you know, definitely use that as an avenue. The way that I look at it with Elijah right now, and, you know, if you have faith in God, God said he would never leave us nor forsake us. God is using Elijah as a vessel right now to lead others to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm looking at it. God makes no mistakes.
Definitely.
But, you know, we definitely, sincerely, from the top, middle, and the bottom of our heart, thank every single person who is standing with us, who is sharing Elijah's story. You know, we feel that he's going to come home. He's not going to be in there the whole 10 years. His sins is going to be overturned. He's going to be able to do everything that he's destined to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we just thank you all. And if you can, you know, if you can reach out to whether, you know, you can reach out to him on Instagram. You can type in Ralph Northam on Google. It'll bring up his information. If you can DM him or email him or anything like that to see if he can pardon Elijah, because that's what we're doing right now.
Awesome. And so for me, I just would like to thank you for even not hesitating to come on my show and just speaking out, because we can be close to someone or we can know that something is going on, but it doesn't always mean that we're going to speak out about it, especially on a platform that we may not be familiar with, or like you said, don't even know where to start. So I really thank you for coming on here. And when I see stories like that, not just because, you know, I'm Black and it's all the injustices going on, you know, I think about my soon-to-be 17-year-old who's about to be in the real world, and you can't protect your kids all the time. You can't be there all the time. When they're 5 and 6 years old, you know where they are. But once they leave out, you want them to experience the world, but the world is so harsh. And unfortunately, the world doesn't always like our Black skin. So it's definitely, you know, hard. And I definitely did put myself, you know, in your shoes, because I have a nephew, and in his mom's shoes, because I can only imagine, especially if you know your child was an honor student, and the fact that he was a good basketball player and could have went anywhere else, but he chose to go there. So I will definitely be praying for you guys, and I really can't wait to post this story so other people can hear, just so you guys can get more publicity, because this story really needs it, and that judge really needs to retire at this point, you know, with the different cases that he's had. So Miss Kindra, thank you again so much for coming to my show, and like I said, I will be praying for you guys, and we will definitely be in touch.